So in this video, I'll be showing you how to use the Atlas Toolkit, which is a very fast way of unwrapping a lot of big things like interior design or levels. It's a very quick way. It's like the texturing tools of old mapping tools, like Hammer, for example, for the Source Engine. They would use this kind of similar way of texturing things or UV unwrapping them. So let's start with the basics. So let's remove this. So we have a blank slate. So all you have to do is go into your UV editor mode, and I just accidentally split that, and you will have this with Ultitools. And all you have to do is go to Shift T, and it has all the controls here, but I'll go through all of them. So the first important thing you need to do is make your own atlas. So call it whatever, but this contains all the different texture definitions. So my atlas. And with Shift left click, you can create a tile. And you can make as many tiles as you want, and you can duplicate them with Shift D, and you can resize them with the handles, like so. But in this case, I want to have the same size tile for everything, so I'm just duplicating this. With F2, you can rename these as well, so that they are easier to navigate to. That's D, and this is C. And then the most important thing, the mapping. So the mapping is basically getting your edit mode selection and putting it onto these tiles. And there are 4 modes. One is using the existing UVs, and I'll go through the from top to bottom. So auto projection means that using the active face, it will unwrap this, and then it will assign it to a tile. So Control Alt left click. That's the key binding by default. You can rebind these in the settings, but these are the defaults. So this allows you to assign a face to any, or selection to any tile. And with R, I accidentally did it. You can rotate it. And with U, you can flip it. And with V, you can flip it on the Y-axis. And that's the basic controls. There's a special mode for diamond tile, which is useful if you have a very tight atlas with a lot of like diamond-shaped decals. You would have this diamond mode, but that's the only edge case. There is padding as well. If you may notice, the tile is a bit bigger than the UVs, and that's because of this padding value. If it's very big, if you unwrap it, it's more noticeable here, but by default it's very slight, and this is there to prevent bleeding. So if you have UV tiles that are very close to each other, they might bleed into each other because of the UVs, so that prevents it. And the smallest size is like a micron or something. It's unnoticeable. This is like less than 1,000 of a pixel on a 1K texture. Very useful to have this padding thing. And other than that, you can save this. So once you're happy, you can just export. And if you remove this, you can import it. So you never lose your progress. You can even send it to your friends who use this add-on. And let's go over the grid size is something I should. So if the tile is a bit too big, or these tiles are, you can of course change this to a few pre-designed presets, or you can just manually do like 1 divided by 128. So a division of 128 would be very, very small squares. The smallest you should go to is a pixel of your current texture, which might be 1 divided by 1,000. But these presets are usually good enough for most situations. So now let's go through all of these mapping modes. So the auto project is pretty straightforward. Using the active face, it will flatten it and all the adjacent selected faces as well. Then there's per face, which will unwrap each individual face based on their normals. So that's more useful if you have like something like this. But and then we can rotate all of these. But for this middle one, you would want to use the auto project, like so. And everything looks pretty good. Then there is the stitch mode, which is useful for something that goes across multiple faces. It will still use the same tile or the same division based on your amount of faces, but it will make it fit inside the actual tile. Then there's existing. So if we have some kind of custom UV like this, and we don't want this to change, we would just use the existing mode. So now we can still flip it, we can do stuff to it, but the shape of it will stay relatively the same. It will be stretched, of course, to fit the tile, but it will keep its complexities. And that's pretty much it. I'll go over the hotspot texturing in the second part. But it's a simple tool, but it's very powerful once you combine this with existing UV workflows. So once you have a atlas, you can do something called hotspot texturing. And if you do this, if you set everything as mark seam and you unwrap, you get a bunch of faces, right? But having to manually assign these, you can do that. You can just manually assign these like so, but there's an automatic way of doing this, and it's the hotspot texturing. And if you do this, you have to make sure that everything's unwrapped, because it doesn't do the scaling or the stretching. It does the stretching, but it doesn't do the scaling. And if you do hotspot texturing, it's gonna find the best UV for the best tile. But as you may notice, the texel density is sometimes a bit too... To be honest, this is like fine. There's a bit of stretching here, but that's because of the atlas just isn't as... There isn't much there. There should be more tiles for specific things. But this is, I'd say, good enough. Except for this part. Like, you want this to be one part, so you would do this. You would clear seam, do a boundary, select boundary loop, and do mark seam. And then you can just unwrap this specific part. And now we can just do hotspot texturing again. Now here the texel density is very high, and that's because of our unwrapping. Unwrapping always uses the biggest area. So if we do unwrapping on everything, it's gonna be relative. So now the texel density is fine. And now if we do hotspot texturing, we get way better results. So just, you have to make sure the texel density of the UVs is normalized before you do this. But other than that, it's pretty automatic. Like if we add some detail over here, just add a bevel. Then we just unwrap this again and do hotspot texturing, and we can see that, yeah, it shows the correct. Let's look at the UVs. Oh, we can see that it's connected, and that's because we didn't mark seams here. So it's very important that you unwrap things correctly. Like this is ideal. You want faceted. For mechanical stuff, it's usually faceted, like so. And now if we unwrap everything again and do hotspot, we can see that they have their individual tile now, which is good. This is exactly what we want. And the texel density is nice. Sometimes we do get these artifacts here, and you could just be fine with that. But if you don't like it, you just do this. Clear seam, mark seam, and again, just unwrap this hotspot. And now it's going to assign this its own tile.